Thank you for that, D&D. Listen, what's going on with schools in September, it is dizzying. There is so much information out there. I'm seeing so many tweets from parents. We're going to try to get to all those questions. Now, the Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, will be making an announcement with Premier Ford at Queen's Park this afternoon at 1 p.m., just one day after the government announced they're unlocking an additional $500 million in reserve funds for the province's back-to-school plan. But right now, the minister, there he is, joins me live to answer your questions. Good morning, Minister. How are you?
Hey, Melissa. Thanks for having me this morning.
You bet. Listen, going into your announcement today, we keep hearing parents and other people concerned about class sizes. Why aren't you capping them?
Well, what we've done is we've set the school boards. We agree it's a priority to increase distancing, especially in those early elementary years. So we've unlocked $500 million yesterday of additional funding on top of the $309 million in new funding, the highest investment any province in this country is making by any measurement to reopen schools. That $500 million is going to allow school boards to do really two things. One is get more space. Community spaces, should they need it. And the second is to hire more staff, should they need it. Together, by doing so, we increase distancing. We complement that with a mandatory masking policy, with more testing, with more cleaning, the fact that we're hiring 1,200 to 1,300 new custodians, and as well as having public health nurses within our schools to ensure together the full suite of actions and the layers of prevention we're introducing could keep these kids safe. And by the way, Melissa, the chief medical officer of health of this province, the foremost medical officer that has got us through the worst of this pandemic, that has led Ontario and really ensured evidence and science guides, he has endorsed this plan. He has given it his full endorsement, and that's important.
So some of that money is going to be used to what you say is to enhance physical distancing. What is the standard for that physical distancing that you need to see maintained?
Yeah, we want to see, what sick kids, as well as other institutes, including the Chief Medical Officer of Health, has requested for at least 1 meter of social distancing, supported by masking, cleaning, and other hand hygiene, changes to sort of how school operates in September. That's supported by ventilation improvements, so air quality and air filtration is improved, which is why, Melissa, we put about $50 million in additional funding announced yesterday on top of a $1.4 billion allocation to improve airflow and to make sure we've got better filtration systems, as well as mobile filtration systems for portables, for older schools, and for those communities, within where we live that has higher risk of transmission. For example, in Toronto, that could be the northeast or northwest parts, those hotspots. So really focusing in and triaging those investments will make a difference to de-risk the circumstance and just make sure these kids are safe in September.
Now, I want to talk about ventilation in just a second. But when it comes to that physical distancing, Cynthia Mulligan, of course, a reporter here at City News, follows you very closely. She didn't get a chance to ask you a question yesterday, but she did tweet that if she were able to get a question to you about that physical distancing, she says, what if there were still classes of 30 students crammed into a small space where you can't maintain that 1 meter you're talking about? Yeah. Will you enforce some kind of rules to change that up?
Absolutely. We've been clear that we want to make sure distancing can be achieved, and classrooms where that can't be achieved, now the funding has been unlocked to enable more hiring and more spacing so that we have distancing plus masking plus hand hygiene and the other elements, including Ontario being the only province in Canada to have a proactive surveillance testing of asymptomatic students, meaning we're going to be doing aggressive testing of high school students that are the risk is a bit higher amongst older students for transmission than younger students, according to the emerging evidence. So we have put in place $30 million before yesterday. We've added $500 million, unlocking that for school board to do exactly what you say, to maximize distancing, to ensure that we can do everything humanly possible, from air, environmental improvements to distancing to masking, as I mentioned. And really, when you look and you measure Ontario versus every single province in the country, we lead in investment in the areas that matter. And I think that should underscore promise to parents that this plan has been endorsed by the Chief Medical Officer of Health. He has given his stamp of approval because it is comprehensive and because it has been informed by evidence. And that's important. And we're going to continue to build it up, Melissa, according to any advice we get, we will act on. I think we've demonstrated that since the first day I closed schools on the advice of the Chief Medical Officer in March, which happened the first in Canada. So we're going to continue to do whatever it takes to keep these kids safe.
As for that ventilation, about 3 weeks left until we start the school year. Anyone who has done home renovations knows that it always takes longer than you expect. Is this a realistic timeline to get those upgrades finished before students walk in?
School boards have already been upgrading their air and HVAC systems over the past weeks, to be fair to them, using a $1.4 billion allocation the province provides them. We just understand that there are shovel-ready projects that can be done immediately. Changing the filtration within our HVAC older systems could be done immediately. Buying and procuring HEPA filters, as well as standalone air quality systems for portables can be done. We've already been working on that procurement. So yes, we believe we can make material improvements to air quality leading into September, knowing that for virtually every board that I'm aware of have already been undertaking investments so that we improve the airflow, we improve the cleaning, the testing, the screening, which is how Ontario is leading the way in this respect. And as I noted, we're the only province to have 500 public health nurses to help with symptom relief and ultimately just assist educators and schools with the challenges of the fall, from flu to other symptoms that may arise as we enter the winter season.
All four education unions have come together saying your plan does not meet their health and safety requirements. What are you saying to them?
Well, yesterday when that question was posed, the chief medical officer, Dr. David Williams, who is the foremost senior medical authority in Ontario, he's the gentleman that has ably informed cabinet and got us through the worst of this pandemic. And as we face a recession and a health challenge in this province and in the world, I think it's important we defer to medical science and experts respectfully. And the chief medical officer of this province has said yesterday unequivocally he supports the plan, he's endorsed it, and he believes it's safe. And he said, I would not support it if it wasn't. And so I think when we have that type of strength and the credibility of medical leaders suggesting it is comprehensive, it is strong, and I think what I'm indicating to you, Melissa, quite personally, is that I will continue to build upon it and add more layers of prevention according to the science. And I think, and I hope that underscores my commitments and it underscores the collective commitment. We just have to work together right now, put our historic differences aside, do whatever it takes to ensure our children are safe. And that's an obligation I hold dear to me. As I noted, I've got skin in the game. I just want to get this right. And I know that all parents are anxious as they make decisions leading into September. I know that is the real challenge we all face, but have confidence the chief medical officer has endorsed it. We've invested more. We're adding each and every day new layers of protection, and we're listening to the science.
Heading into September, now the Premier has said repeatedly that his COVID plan is flexible. Could you be flexible when it comes to the start date for school?
Yeah, I think the one consensus, if there was one in the medical community, is the imperative of getting kids back into class for their development, their mental health, and really just to allow them to continue to develop with their peers. But having said that, some schools have said, look, to minimize this massive volume of kids coming in on the first day of school, would the province be amenable to allowing, the kindergarten grade 1s to start on the first day, and then you just get the grade 2s and 3s on the second day, and you sort of stagger that start over the first week. That type of approach to minimize, volume in the first few days just seems sensible and pragmatic without creating massive implications for parents. So I'll be open to something like that, but I don't want to see the delay much beyond that. I think parents, and particularly our kids, need to get back to school, and we can do this safely. We have the guidance of the medical community. We've added new investments in air ventilation and in physical distancing, building upon Ontario's leading plan that's been informed by the chief medical officer and supported by him. I think now these plans work hard and diligently and collaboratively over the coming weeks to get it done.
You have an announcement coming up today at 1 p.m. with the Premier and other ministers. Anything new on education coming today?
Nothing specific for education today other than a reaffirmation that our plan is comprehensive. I mean, I think yesterday I saw a few provinces come out, Melissa, New Brunswick with their plan, and BC came out a few days ago. All the provinces started getting them out in the last few days, as I observe. And I'm just confident that our plan stands strong against them in the context of being more comprehensive. We're the only province to mask. We're the only province to have asymptomatic testing. We have massive investments in custodians and cleaning. We also have a protocol for outbreak management, and we have nurses within our schools to ensure they could help with symptom relief as well as testing and screening. So today we're going to continue to sort of promote the merits of that plan and listen to all involved, our parents and educators. Yesterday I spoke to 1,000 parents in York Region, and we're hearing important feedback about how we continue to build this up. And I just want to thank everyone for their patience and just let them know that in Ontario, you're the only province that, as I understand it, has a choice for online remote learning versus in class. And I did scale up and strengthen the remote learning protocol yesterday, saying that there's got to be at least 75%, Melissa, of learning must be live synchronous learning, meaning the Zoom-style classrooms to create more accountability and a better educational experience for those parents that choose online learning.
Minister, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for answering our questions. I know there are going to be many more tough questions coming your way before the start of the school year 3 weeks from now.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Plenty more coming up here on BT. We'll be with you right after the break.